The utility bill for January has arrived. 12,000 rubles for 1 month. 12,000 rubles for an apartment I'm not even living in yet. I barely use any electricity there, barely use any gas, and certainly not any water. 12,000!
If even millionaire bloggers are getting worried, then what are we, ordinary people, supposed to do? Have you noticed that rising utility costs are now being discussed even at the very top of our blogging crowd? Million-follower bloggers are posting videos saying that housing and utilities have become unaffordable. If they say it's expensive for them, then what are we supposed to do? Utility rates went up by 20% in January. People with 40 square meters are now expected to pay 15,000, 17,000 rubles. All right, Moscow, fine. Supposedly everything is better here, and utility rates across the country are roughly at Moscow's level, even though the standard of living elsewhere is much lower. And on top of that, there's going to be a second increase in June or July. One hike wasn't enough. They kindly decided to split it into 2 stages, so people would have 6 months to prepare, to save up money to pay their bills. Well, I'm not going to gather up all my money just to hand it over for utilities. I can't imagine where we're heading. Where are we even going?
For the past 2 months, the utility bill was around 11, a little over 10,000. In January, 33. I'm not going to pay that, sorry.
Well, no one wants to pay, but they will have to, because imperial ambitions are always paid for by the citizens of the empire. And if for years you stay silent, applaud, support, or simply pretend to be out of politics, the bill will come anyway, and you will have to pay and be held accountable. And if you don't want to, you'll be forced through the threats.
You bastards need to be slammed face first into a table. That's what you deserve.
No, what should have been done was simple: not to stay silent all those years and not to support Putin's bloody rule. Because he started the war, but all Russians will pay for it through taxes, utility tariffs, rising food prices, and increasing costs of basic services. So today, I bring you Cries from the Swamps Over Miserable Survival, Part 2.
Guys, what happened to the utility bills? 115 square meters. I get it, the apartment is big. 17,000 on the bill, that's never happened before. 17,000 for January? What's your square footage? How much was your January bill? Can you write in the comments? Honestly, I'm in shock. I feel like I'm renting this place, like it's not even my own apartment. Let me know.
Kazan. So my utility bill for 58 square meters is 19,000 rubles. What is that? Is that a normal price or not? It seems to me this is way too much.
I'm not calling on anyone to do anything, but personally, more and more today, I find myself thinking that for the 47,000 rubles I have to pay here just for electricity, I could easily rent a condo somewhere in Vietnam or Thailand and live there freely without censorship or a VPN. I love my country, but it doesn't love me back. I don't even know if I should record this reel, but I'm going to do it. We've all been busy dealing with the new electricity bills along with the whole country. Our electricity bill for January is almost 47,000 rubles, and that's just for electricity. I pay less for my mortgage. In December, the bill was 24,000 rubles, and in January, it's already 47,000 rubles. I'll repeat, given the size of our house, our bill should have increased by no more than 4,000 rubles, but instead, they went up by 23,000. There are grounds to file complaints with the Housing Inspectorate, the Federal Anti-Monopoly Service, Rospotrebnadzor, and the Prosecutor's Office. Anyone who's ready to tolerate this and sit quietly without saying a word, go ahead and keep doing it.
I love herring under a fur coat, so I gladly make it myself. And everyone I invite comes over.
Have you seen the prices?
Well, I think my beets grew in my own garden, and so did my carrots. So for me, it hasn't gotten more expensive. I'd say the cost has stayed at about the level of maybe even 3 years ago, because while working in the Duma, I also work at my dacha, in my vegetable garden, picking berries, harvesting vegetables, and everything else. So for me, nothing has become more expensive. I can treat someone, pour them some tea with strawberry jam, and offer other homemade products too. So I think that those who aren't lazy have earned themselves an inexpensive Olivier salad.
In the previous episode, I showed how Russians were whining about the VAT increase and the sharp rise in food prices. Today, it's their utility bills that will cover the cost of the rockets and drones wiping Ukrainian cities and villages off the face of the earth.
So technically, according to the documents, it's a 3-room apartment, right? The total area listed is 78.2 square meters. And in January, we received a utility bill for 2 people living here 24/7. 33,829 rubles. How is that even possible? Is this legal? For context, over the past 2 months, our utilities were around 11,000, 10,000 and a bit. And in January, 33,000. I'm not gonna pay that.
We're in shock over the new electricity bills, just like the whole country. Our electricity bill for January is almost 47,000 rubles. And that's just for electricity. I pay less for my mortgage. In December, the bill was 24,000 rubles, and in January, it's already 47,000. I'll repeat, given the size of our house, our payments should have increased by no more than 4,000 rubles, but instead they went up by 23,000.
Because every ruble on that receipt is part of a system that turns money into shells. So the citizens of the Russian Federation began 2026 not with hopes and plans, but with bills. And those bills will have become perhaps the most honest summary of the war that Putin is wagging. Propaganda can still explain, justify, and wrap things in pretty words, but the numbers in utility bills cannot. They are silent, ruthless, and extremely convincing. And they have to put it mildly, deeply upset even the not-so-poor Muscovites.
Why is everyone pretending that nothing's happening? Is everything fine for everyone? No, seriously, I'm in shock right now. I opened the app to pay the utilities. Do you know how much the utilities cost for 42 square meters? A brand new mortgage, 12,000 rubles. For what exactly? The place hasn't been renovated since the age of mammoths. I don't even know, it's just a complete mess. Utilities, 12,000! Sorry, we bought an apartment in Moscow. We haven't even moved in yet. It's just bare concrete inside. 18,000! Excuse me? And another thing, when did it become normal to buy a kilo of tomatoes for 600 rubles? And don't say it's because it's winter. It's the same nonsense in the summer. And cucumbers? When I lived in the village, the simplest, easiest, cheapest salad was cucumbers and tomatoes. Now that's luxury. A salad that costs 1,500 rubles, just like that. Chicken, damn it, that basically runs around for free. I'm telling you, I'm going to start raising my own pigs, chickens, turkeys, whoever else. I'll raise them all. I'll have my own farm. And grain isn't getting more expensive, hay isn't getting more expensive. Oh, guys, let's move to the countryside, somewhere remote, where no one will find us. There you go. Moscow, Moscow.
So imagine how hard this hits ordinary citizens if even people in Moscow are massively posting videos in social media showing their bills with shock, resentment, and the question, how are we supposed to live like this? And here, it's important to note, this is no longer happening somewhere in the regions, not in depressed small towns, but in the capital, the city that for years was fed and protected as a showcase of stability. Believe me, in the regions the situation is even worse.
16,000. You're in Moscow complaining that you pay 16,000 in utilities for a 4-room apartment. Meanwhile, in Ufa, it's 14,184 rubles for a 3-room apartment on the outskirts of the city. And you're complaining about 16,000 in Moscow.
You see, real Hunger Games. Now citizens of Putin's federations are ready to tear each other apart with their angry comments. The reason is banal and cynical at the same time. War is expensive. Missiles, drones, shells, maintaining the army, payments to security forces and the propaganda machine, none of that comes from thin air. When the budget is bursting at the seams and revenues are falling, the state takes the simplest path. It reaches into its own citizens' pockets.
I remember how at the beginning of the full-scale war in 2022, they were all saying, oh, electricity bills in Europe have doubled. Oh, they're all going to freeze. Oh, they're all doomed. Think back. This was being actively discussed everywhere. It was constantly pushed on television. Solovyov was saying, they're paying 200 euros a month for electricity now. Soon they'll be out on the streets. They have no light, no heating. And what do we have in 2026? Electricity in Russia now costs as much as in Europe. There's no power in Belgorod and in other regions too. People are freezing because the winter is cold, and somehow they've stopped talking about Europe. Notice how all the talk about Europe rotting, freezing, and paying outrageous electricity prices has just disappeared. So what about Europe? Did you forget? Turns out not everyone is freezing after all. Now it's the other way around.
There's just one nuance. For years, Russians were told that sanctions don't work, that the economy withstood the pressure, that the country is rising from its knees. And maybe those words could still be repeated as long as the war existed somewhere on a TV screen. But when it arrives in the form of a bill for electricity, water and heating, illusions end. Because the greatness of the empire doesn't heat your apartment or pay for your hot water. And here we are.
I'm in shock right now. I open it up, and it's a chicken, damn it, that's supposedly free range.
You know, I look at all this, and it's both ironic and tragic to watch the very same people who yesterday were writing, "We can do it again," and applauding another strike on Ukraine, today recording videos like this.
Well, I guess I'll cook chicken for dinner today. The chicken costs 600 rubles. Maybe I'll make a salad instead. At least we'll eat some cucumbers. 300 rubles for cucumbers, 300 rubles for butter. We'll skip the butter. 600 rubles doesn't even get you a whole sausage. We'll just drink tap water.
Because life in Russia now is not just about skyrocketing tariffs and rising prices. It is a direct invoice for the war. For every shot, every missile, every crime. And the longer this war lasts, the larger the total at the bottom of the receipt will grow. Because a state that kills always makes its own people pay. The only question is how long Russians will continue to pretend they don't understand what exactly they are being charged for.
In our country, the state fundamentally denies the right of citizens to life. Even a subsistence minimum that is several times lower than the real level is not guaranteed to everyone. It is guaranteed to pensioners, and even then, not to everyone. It is guaranteed to families with children, de facto, and it is guaranteed to legally employed full-time. Students, people who have not worked out pension points, retirement experience, and so on. That is, those who are too poor, housewives, are not guaranteed it in principle.
But while they still refuse to understand, analysts predict this is only the beginning. Rapid price increases driven by the need of finance the war and cover the budget deficit will continue. The Russian budget cannot withstand the military expenses, so the burden is shifted onto citizens. And you know what else is ironic? Kremlin officials explain it is a necessity to repair infrastructure that is more than 40% worn out. And in some forgotten corners of Russia, abandoned by both Putin and God, it's worn out by as much as 80%.
You know, we do not have enough money to repair the system of power lines, the same pipelines, and so let's come up with such an investment component. And the investment component, it should be twice as high as the tariff we are used to. I remember saying at a meeting, wait, explain what you mean. She said, well, for example, you pay 10 rubles today, but you have to pay 20 rubles. And this additive is the investment component. I remember then in the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Russian Federation, we gathered and said, wait, does it turn out that the tariffs will be doubled? Yes. And why? And then so that all resource workers invest in the repair of pipes. And according to calculations, in 5 years, all pipes will be perfect. All communications will be perfect. 2003, the 4th year.
Since that time, 4 times 5 years have passed.
Yes. I can say that the year before last, Mr. Kremlin, Deputy Prime Minister, said that, you know, but we still do not know where this component is, where the investment component is, where did its money go? Wait, over the past 20...
We have been paying for 20 years, and the gentleman does not know where he puts the money.
Exactly half of the money, and he says openly, publicly, and we still don't know, and don't know how to find it.
And everyone is free, which is interesting.
And everyone is free. Despite the fact that in 2001, the FSB created a special department not just to combat economic crimes, but they have a special department to combat especially important crimes in the field of housing and communal services. And when you tell them the names, listen, well, it's on the air that they don't allow me to say all the names. But when you name the names with whom you need to start, they usually say, can you tell us the scheme by which this money goes? They say, but it's impossible. This is how the country lives.
But this situation is not limited to Russia. In temporarily occupied Ukrainian cities, water tariffs have also doubled. And this despite the fact that water and heating supplies have still not been fully restored. The only thing Russian society managed flawlessly today is complaining about prices, about taxes, about the unfair world that suddenly stopped admiring imperial ambitions. But the paradox is that a complaint is not a position. It's an emotion without consequences. Empty cries. Noise without action.
Am I the only one who is shocked by the amount of utility bills for January? I received payment for my room in a communal apartment, 7,000 something. At first I thought, damn, maybe I didn't pay on time and double payment came. It's just that the fact that I was late didn't go away. I scrolled through, no, I paid on time last time. I don't understand what's going on. An acquaintance called me yesterday and said, Sveta, can you imagine what kind of receipt RME to me? And she has a 3-room apartment in a Khrushchev apartment, 11,000. She said, I pay 8. I said, I don't understand what is the reason for this. And she said, yes, I found out, they say, because the frosts were so strong these days. So the utility check grew up. Crazy. More than 30% of the payment came from everyone. But this is terrible. And many people complain. Yesterday I just got into the chat, looked there. The radiators were barely warm during all this time. It's okay to make us full, right? 4 days of frost. And good earnings for someone.
And yet now, when the economy is cracking, when VAT is rising, when prices are soaring, when the war begins to affect not just the TV, but their own refrigerator and wallet, suddenly there is a mass outrage. But as you can see, this chorus of discounted sounds in kitchens and anonymous chats, where it's safe. For years, we have been fighting for freedom, while Russians continue to complain about the consequences of their own silent consent. But slaves have neither a voice nor a choice. And I will keep talking about this for as long as Russian missiles fly over our cities. Thank you for watching and for your feedback. Take care of yourself. Take care of Ukraine. See you in the next episode.